A Taste of Ethiopia, the story of Enats feast. In a small village nestled within the lush highlands of Ethiopia, there lived a woman named Enat. Known for her warm heart and even warmer kitchen, Enat's love for cooking was matched only by her deep respect for the traditions of her ancestors. Her home was always filled with the rich, inviting aromas of Berberi spices, simmering stews, and freshly baked injera, a sourdough flatbread that was the foundation of every meal. One day, Enat decided to host a grand feast to celebrate Meskel, the Ethiopian festival of finding the true cross. She wanted to bring together her family, friends, and neighbors to share the food she so lovingly prepared. But more importantly, she wanted to pass on the stories of their culture to the younger generation. In the days leading up to the feast, Enat meticulously prepared each dish, beginning with dorawat, a spicy chicken stew that was the star of the meal. She marinated the chicken in lemon juice and spices, letting the flavors soak in overnight. The next day, she slowly cooked the stew with onions, garlic, ginger, and berbere, stirring the pot with care as the deep red sauce thickened. Next, she turned her attention to shiro, a chickpea stew that was a family favorite. Enat ground the chickpeas herself, mixing them with onions, garlic, and spices to create a velvety, flavorful dish that was both comforting and nourishing. She also prepared kitfo, finely minced raw beef seasoned with mitmita, a spicy chili powder, and niter kabe, a spiced, clarified butter. This dish was a nod to the warrior spirit of her ancestors, who would eat it for strength and courage. As the day of the feast arrived, Enat baked dozens of injera, each one perfectly round with a spongy texture that was ideal for scooping up the stews and sauces. She laid out the dishes on a large woven basket, called a misab, in the center of her home. The misab was surrounded by small stools where guests would sit, eating with their hands as was the tradition. As the guests arrived, they were greeted by the vibrant colors and bold flavors of the feast. The spicy heat of the dorawat was balanced by the cool, tangy taste of the injera, while the earthy shiro provided a comforting contrast. The kitfo, served with a side of ayib, a mild cottage cheese, was a highlight, its richness tempered by the cool, creamy cheese. As they ate, Enat shared stories of her childhood, of learning to cook from her mother and grandmother, and of the history behind each dish. She spoke of the importance of food in Ethiopian culture, not just as sustenance, but as a way to connect with one another, to celebrate, and to remember. The feast was a success, and as the sun set over the mountains, the guests left with full bellies and warm hearts. Enat's home, once again quiet, still carried the lingering sense of the day's cooking, a reminder of the love, tradition, and community that had filled it. From that day on, the young ones who had attended the feast carried with them the stories Enat had shared. They too would cook these dishes, and perhaps one day they would host their own feasts, passing on the flavors and traditions of Ethiopia to the next generation.